Hello and welcome to the Real Life Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan. Remember, this is a platform where we get to interact, engage, learn from icons, gurus, trendsetters, trailblazers, men of impact, men of influence, leadership, and inspiration. Right now, seated next to me, ladies and gentlemen, is a giant. Yeah, so this man is a speaker. He is, okay, let me do this. I call him the master and the king of voiceovers, marketing, and communication. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm simply talking about Mr. Kamiza. The other name is what?
Chikula.
Chikula. I was struggling to pronounce his name. Mr. Kamiza Chikula. Boss, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Like I was telling you before the interview that someone introduced me to you and I told them, I don't know who this man is. And they just told me to Google you. So I Googled you. My mind was blown. I said, I need this man on my show because I think you've contributed a lot to the industry of communication right here in Zambia. You've done massive stuff that a lot of people don't know about, and that's what the Real Life Show is all about, to appreciate people and learn from people who've built empires from grassroots to something that is admirable.
Truly grateful for the opportunity.
Awesome. Now, just tell us a bit more about you growing up. How was it as a boy? What was your mindset like? How were you brought up?
So when I look back now, I realize that I've always been a creative individual.
Great.
But unfortunately, I think I was very misunderstood. I was considered a noisemaker. I was considered always distracted and absent-minded because my mind was always all over the place. And I think in hindsight, it was just my creativity that made me able to have various windows open at the same time and actively be engaging with all those windows.
Great.
And so for people who are sitting next to me, they would assume I'm distracted or I'm thinking of other things, but I would be fully present there. Just that my mind would also be in several other places at exactly the same time. So I would describe myself as a weird kid. I was that fellow who always wanted to find out what made things work. If I was given a toy, it didn't last more than 48 hours because I wanted to find out what made that toy work.
But what was your ambition growing up as a child? Most of us wanted to be pilots, doctors.
It's a Zambian thing. Every child, I think every Zambian child at some point, a certain generation, every boy child wanted to be a pilot. And then at some point it was, I wanted to be a soldier.
Yes.
Because I admired the amount of authority that they had. I'll take you back to an interesting story where I told my parents why I wanted to be a soldier.
Okay.
We were walking through town, and I believe it was Society House, and I saw a model plane in a travel agency, and I cried my eyes out. I wanted that toy. And my dad said, but it's on display, that's in the store, you can't have it. And I said, I want that toy. And so after much insistence on my part, he said, you know what, I'm going to smack you. But as we walked away, I said, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be a soldier so that I can shoot you. Oh, that was the last time I ever talked about being a soldier.
Wow. Now, at what point do you discover that this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your life? Voiceover, speaking, coordinating programs. At what point did you discover this is my purpose? Can you call it purpose?
I can call it purpose, or a part of it. The greater purpose lies hidden within the activities that are visible. But it's been quite an interesting journey. I emceed my first event in 1987.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a long time.
That's a very long time ago. And it was all because my headmistress believed in me at the time. I was in grade 7 at the time, and we were wrapping up our year. And there was an end-of-year concert, and it was felt by the teachers and the headmistress that the MC should be one of the students. And she said, you speak really well, go up on that stage. And that was my first encounter with standing in front of an audience. The entire school was there, parents were there, teachers, friends and family. So it felt right. It felt
You
like
felt
home.
fulfilled. You felt like, okay, this is it.
Yes.
I've got it.
I still recall that moment in great detail. It was that impactful. And even though I didn't do much with the gift, after completing my primary school, right through secondary school, I didn't do much with it.
Yeah.
I tried for the debating society and I was told I wasn't good enough. Well, according to their standards.
Their standards, yes.
But that's a story for another day.
Now, sorry to cut you short. Talking about the teacher acknowledging that you speak very well. Let's talk about your accent, man. Did you create that accent? Did you go to a British school, an American school? What happened?
Yes, most of my teachers were actually British.
Okay.
Yes, if I ran through all of their names, you would be able to tell that.
But right here in Zambia?
Right here in Zambia.
You
I was educated at Nkwazi Primary School.
Okay.
I started my first grade at Treetops for just a year, and my first teacher was Mrs. Adamson. I then moved on to Nkwazi, where Mrs. Belcross took me in grade 2 and 3, and then it was Mrs. Moody, and then moved on to Miss Singini, moved on to Mrs. Steele, and then Mrs. Fisher and Mrs. Abbey.
Awesome, interesting, right there. Now, looking at your CV, you have a very heavy CV. Before you became CEO of Farah, is it Farah?
Farah Communications.
Farah Communications. Before you became CEO, I'm aware you've worked for 3 banks. You've worked for an insurance company. You've worked for radio stations. At what point did you feel this is the right time for me to leave the employment sector and establish my own thing?
So the objective had always been there, to try my hand at building my own brand and also to try and run an organization for myself. There were guidelines in all of the organizations that you've mentioned, and you definitely did your homework, I can tell.
Kudos to me.
Yes, 100%. You did your homework. I was like, hello. He knows about the insurance company as well. Very few people know about that, but I did my fair share of the corporate sector. And it's easy to maneuver within a box that is laid out for you. There are guidelines, there's standard operation procedure, KPIs are laid out for you. So you're basically on a rail track. But even in those times, I always felt this need to be unshackled. So I thrived in organizations where over time I built up the trust of my employers and they let me run free.
Do your own thing.
Just say, you know, he's got a method to his madness. Let him do his thing. But where there were restraints, I shriveled. I wasn't at my optimum. I was able to do the work, but it wasn't as fulfilling as it was where I was let to run free. And I now look back and I realize it was, again, the same issue of creativity. Routine and I are not very good friends. So I have...
You always want something new.
I want a new challenge. I want a new emergency to deal with, a new crisis. I need to think on the go. I'm at my best when there's a slight pinch of panic in a situation. Pressure is me.
Awesome.
I love pressure.
I like that. I like that. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are in employment and they desire to leave employment because they've got their own visions and passions and purpose to chase. You've been through that yourself.
Yes.
At what point can someone, what is the best time to leave employment and establish your own thing? Because I've heard of people who've left employment and they go broke and they suffer, life becomes very frustrating for them. What's the best time to stop work and start your own journey of entrepreneurship?
No two people have the same story, and as a consequence, no two people have the same timelines. I think there's a knowing on the inside, and when the time is right, you will know. And also, it's important to note that just because you have the desire to do so does not mean you should do it. A lot of people who've ventured into entrepreneurship speak to those who are working as if they've done something wrong. Far from it. There are people whose purpose is locked into them being employed, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
People shouldn't beat themselves up.
No,
because
there's something wrong with me. I'm employed. I'm going to retire. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely okay. If you're fulfilled in that role, good for you. God bless you. Run with it. I think there's an over-leaning on both extremes where, no, a chap can't step out into self-employment. What sort of thinking is that? And then there are people saying, no, chaps are employed, and it's wrong. So each person has their own purpose and their own fulfillment of that purpose in the space in which they operate.
Yeah.
Are you operating optimally? Is this the best that you do? Can you wake up every day and smile about what you do?
Wow.
If it's a yes, keep doing what you're doing.
Good.
So there's nothing wrong with, I know people who have ventured into side projects, and that's fantastic. It's a great way to keep yourself engaged and entertained, and also just to keep certain skill sets flowing.
Yeah.
But to ultimately say to people, until such a time that you venture out, you are not fulfilled, is wrong. That is a fallacy that should be debunked.
You, a lot of wisdom right there, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what I desire for the Real Life Show. Now, you've spoken of having a purpose and having a dream, chasing a dream, going for the dream. I've heard you say words like that. And I've heard you say you must learn how to monetize passion.
Yes.
My question is, can any type of endeavor or anything that someone is passionate about be monetized, and how? Because I've seen a lot of people who do a lot of things in line with their passion, but they don't make money out of it, and they can't earn a living out of it.
Right.
They still have to go and maybe get a job somewhere else and still do.
Exactly.
How do you monetize your passion?
It takes you discovering what it is that you can uniquely provide to the world. And
Uniquely provide
to the world.
I like that.
Do it like nobody else can do it. So that you become we say things like, oh, he's the Bill Gates of such and such an industry.
Yes.
You know, he's the Michael Jordan of this and that industry. He's the Pele of this and that industry. It's because each of those individuals I've mentioned brought a level of uniqueness to what they did that set them apart and made them the platinum standard for the activity that they engaged in.
And people had to pay.
That's it. People are willing to pay a premium for their service.
Great.
And the journey doesn't start and end overnight. The journey is a process, and you've got to learn how to enjoy the process.
Great.
Enjoy the fact that there are days that will be rough, days that will be tough. There'll be jobs at the beginning of the process where you're not even getting paid. But ultimately, you know what the big picture looks like.
Yeah.
There's always something to be gained out of every experience.
Yeah.
I worked for an entire year at a certain radio station as a volunteer.
Wow.
They paid me not a single way, and I was okay with that.
Wow.
Because I had access to equipment that I would not be able to afford at that time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I learned how to work a mixing console. I learned which microphones worked for my voice. I would constantly ask the sound engineer, so what did you do to my voice? I like what you did with the final mix. There's no one added some reverb. Oh, okay. Which is a reverb knob? And I was getting a free education.
Yeah.
I was labeled a volunteer, but I was getting a free education.
Great.
And when the time came, that knowledge is yours to keep forever. I still apply that today.
And no one can take that away from you.
It's yours. Once it's in the vault, it's locked in.
Wow.
Yes.
I like that. One other interesting thing about you, you're an amazing man. When I was listening to you last night, my mind blew up. You mentioned something that touched my heart. You said you need to have a good support structure.
Oh, yes.
And you're talking about Madame.
Oh, yes.
Your wife. Tell me more about that. I want to hear more about that.
So I'm the impulsive one.
Okay.
I'm the one who will jump out of the plane without thinking about it.
You're the red.
Yes, that I am. And she is the balance.
Okay.
She's the balance. She's the one who sees the logic, and gives me insights and tells me the hard conversations. We have hard conversations where she tells me, do you really need this? Is this the best investment we can make at this time? Because once we lock liquidity into this, when will we recoup it?
Wow.
And I'll grumpily walk away and say, but I was set on doing it. She says, yeah, I know you want to do it. Yes. I'm not saying you're not going to do it.
Yes.
But there's got to be a method to this. And she's been incredible. She's walked with me from the time before I was employed to date.
Wow.
We'll be married for 20 years this April.
Wow.
Yes. And she's been there with me and for me through thick and thin.
Would you say having a right partner by your side also contributes to your success?
5,000%. 5,000. The right partner gives you the drive to be able to succeed.
Wow.
When I told her I was leaving work, she was away at the time. I'll quickly venture into that story. She was away in the United Kingdom studying for her master's. And my kids, we had 2 at the time, our 3rd one hadn't arrived yet, were with her. So I was basically living as a single person. So costs were negligible and all. And the time arrived for me to make the leap.
Yeah.
I picked up the phone and I said to her, you know what? I can't do the corporate thing anymore. I've got to make a move. And her response was, do it.
Wow.
She says, it's about time. I could have told you this a while back. You've been burnt out for a long time and you've been running on fumes. There's no way you'll fail. There's way too much in you that you can successfully do. We won't stop. Go for it. Now, when you're told words like that, you move from just having this grand idea to becoming Superman. You
became the Superman.
Oh, yeah, immediately. And that was the beginning of the journey.
Wow.
And it was that easy.
Awesome.
Now, had she said, no, how can you do that? Are you serious right now? You're in senior management and all. I would have had self-doubt. But the fact that she was my biggest cheerleader in that moment, I knew we were going to succeed immediately.
And it's rare to find such partners because, I mean, looking at your CV, you're a head of marketing, head of this, and then you just say, I quit. And she didn't run away.
No, she did. She stood by my side. And to this day, the way things worked out is after she came back from studying for a master's in business admin, she started to venture into the job market. And a few good offers came along, but for some reason, she just wasn't feeling them. And we later learned that it was basically her heart being invested in what we were doing.
Wow.
So she is the business end and the brains of the operation. She's allowed me to be the creative and do my thing, but all the business decisions are run through her.
What would you say is your leadership style?
I embrace people. I would probably be the cheerleader and the buddy. I'm a buddy type of leader.
Yeah.
So I have an imposing frame, but I'm not an intimidating person.
Great.
I like to have people do things because they want to.
Okay.
And they're doing them because they like the fact that we have a relationship and not because I've frightened them into doing them. I'm not a dictator.
What are your core values in life?
Core values as instilled by the greatest man that's ever walked this planet, in my view, and that's my late dad. Always be true to yourself and always honor your family. Always.
I like that one. I like that one. What are your driving forces in life?
For me, it's to be able to take my family to a place that they've never been before in terms of success. To be able to have them live a life that is way better than the one I lived and have them have access to what they want to do. For me, I will define success when my life comes to an end as having been there to support the dreams of my family.
Talking about success and achievements, I know you've had a lot of achievements in your life. What would you say is the biggest of them all that you are most proud of?
Off the top of my head, the greatest achievement,
Yeah.
and I say this with all sincerity, was the day my dad sat me down and said, I've watched you grow, and I'm proud of the man you have become.
Wow.
In that moment, it didn't matter what any other human being said. I said, I have been endorsed by the best of the best.
Wow.
It's over.
Wow.
So for me to be able to have my dad tell me he was proud of me, nothing beats that.
I know you've been through some things, maybe failures. What did you say was your biggest failure, and how did you learn from that?
How much time do we have?
Just one. I don't know. I need to check my glasses.
We have a catalog of failures, a catalog.
Okay.
But for me, I think my greatest failure in life was probably not applying myself as I should have. Because what that ended up doing was it delayed a lot of things that I should have done and I should have achieved and accomplished.
Great. The most important thing that you've learned in life so far, what is it?
Be real and do you. Just don't conform, perform. And there will always be people who will cheer you and there'll be people who will try to pull you down. But I think that is the greatest lesson. Be sincere and be true to yourself. Just do you.
If we can turn back the time and you talk to the 18-year-old Kamiza, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to not be afraid. 18-year-old Kamiza had a lot of self-doubt and he wasn't sure about what he would become. He was frightened about what the world, it was a big bad world out there. And I would tell him that it's going to be all right. Stay true to who you are. Don't try to become anything that you're not. Just be true to yourself.
And if you could meet let's say 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Okay.
Dinner with 3 people.
Dinner with 3 people. Oof. Wow. Okay. I would love to sit down with Nelson Mandela. The reason would be to understand how your dream can be so big that you're willing to give up your entire life for it.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be one. Number 2, I would definitely like to sit down with Michael Jordan.
Okay.
I would like to sit down with him and understand the mindset of a champion. And just how do you spur yourself on even beyond physical ability and be able to push through all your limitations and everything that you haven't yet, you know is within grasp, but your body is failing you. How do you drive yourself beyond that point and then become superhuman? And I would also very, very much like to sit down with Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
Yes, and understand the mindset of being quiet, but being so impactful, where it's not physical stature, you're diminutive, but you have an impact that goes on for the generation.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a lot of you in the industry, but you stand out. What would you say has made you exceptional?
I like to say I'm an ordinary fellow in the hands of an extraordinary God. If there's one word that I would attribute to it, and one reason, it would be God. Just God's grace.
The grace of God.
And that's it.
One man of God says, it is grace that makes you great.
Indeed, indeed.
And in your free time, what do you do?
I play basketball.
Okay.
I have a very boring life because I spend most of my time at home with my family. I really value family time. I know we have a limited period with our children. My daughter is turning 18 this year, firstborn, and she's basically in the departure lounge. Once she goes into tertiary education, she's basically gone. The second one is also a teenager, and in a couple of years' time, she'll be leaving. We have what we call our empty nest insurance policy, and he's a 5-year-old. So we'll never be lonely, gratefully. But I spend time at home. I like to play basketball. Recently, I've taken up a bit of recreational running, but I prefer to walk. I can walk all day quite comfortably. But that's me. Enjoy sitting down to a good meal with the family, watching a good movie with them, and just spending time with them. So I'm not up and about.
Favorite book of all time?
Oh, that's an easy one. The Bible.
Okay, apart from the Bible.
Apart from the Bible, it would have to be... That's a tricky one, eh? I am an amalgamation of so many books.
I can imagine.
That have made me see things the way I do. That's a tricky one. I'll pass.
No problem. Favorite music?
I'm eclectic. If all the, I don't care what genre it's in, but it's got to be meaningful. If it's sung from the heart, and the tempo's got to be mid to slow. I'm not really an upbeat individual. I like lots of contemplation.
Great. Favorite meal?
Very, very easy. And it's a regular one. So it's nshima with spinach and liver.
Everyone I interview on the Real Life Show, they tell me their favorite meal is nshima.
Oh, yes. But I can't eat it on a daily basis. My body won't let me. I don't have the luxury anymore.
Awesome. Awesome. What are your final words to people who are aspiring to become like you?
Don't become like me. Be better than me.
I like that.
If there's any example that I could set for you, it's basically that I've done my bit with the tools and the capabilities that I've been given. But just invest in yourself. Spend time believing in yourself. Grow your abilities, grow your capabilities. Don't try to be anybody else. And even the people that you use as benchmarks or as standards should really just be stepping stones in your greater journey, and be better than I could possibly ever be.
Ladies and gentlemen, because of time, not because there's no content, because of time, this man is too much. He's an embodiment of wisdom. And I trust and hope that, again, we'll have him back on the Real Life Show. Thank you for watching. Sir, thank you very much for coming. I'm so humbled. I'm excited. I'm glad. This means a lot to me. I've learned a lot personally. I am honored to have been here. I'm truly grateful that you invited me. There are a lot of luminaries who you could have called on, but to call on me means a lot to me. Thank you so very much. That's what the Real Life Show is all about, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you the best of the best. And keep watching, stay safe, and God bless you. Peace.